Ian Furness joins us from Sports Radio KJR Seattle, our good and longtime friend. Ian, and if you don't mind me jumping right in on this Kraken thing, I saw that you were out on the road in Winnipeg doing some stuff. Were you calling some Kraken games this year?
Yeah, Rod, I had a chance to do, I did 4 games at the start of the year. I'm kind of their backup guy. So I did 4 games start of the year, their first road trip. And then I moved on and did. I got a late call for the Winnipeg game of all games. So I got to go back to the prairies, to our roots, right? To the roots of right. Where I started doing this thing. So yeah, I was up in Winnipeg about a month ago. So I've done 5 games total on the radio for them this year.
Sweet, yes, that's where we met. Not in Winnipeg, but on the prairies, as you say. So yeah. Last place in the Pacific Division. The last I looked, did we expect more than this out of the Kraken this year?
Yeah, I think. Well, listen, I did, and I think there's the 2 schools of thought. There's the Vegas thought where, hey, you should be able to compete for a title right away and be in the Stanley Cup playoffs right away. But I think being more realistic, the GMs were all ready for it this time around as far as the expansion draft is concerned. That being said, Rod, I think anybody that knows the league can look at Seattle's roster, look at what happened in the expansion draft, the lack of true activity outside of Grubauer in free agency, and frankly, they just didn't do enough. Now, they're in it for the long haul. They're playing the slow play. They're building for the future. They've got 1 million draft picks over the next few years. Their Giordano trade that had all kinds of picks. So they've got a lot of draft picks coming. But listen, your audience, especially the ones that north of the border, know very well, and I've been trying to educate our fans down here, draft picks in the NHL are not like NFL draft picks. They don't just come to fruition right away, and oftentimes they never come to fruition. So you can have all these draft picks. That's great. What they do next is huge because the team they put on the ice this year was really not very good. I know, listen, they're the 3rd worst team right now in the National Hockey League, and there's just not a lot to be excited about heading into this offseason.
Well, you know what? I always appreciated the fact that you do say it the way it is, and I know how hard it is to do that, especially in the role that you have. But I remember the day after the expansion draft, you were on my show, and we were both going like, really? And so if you're cautioning the fans about these draft picks, is that because they aren't very happy with the way this season has gone?
No, Rod, I think what it is more of an education process here. We have better hockey fans and more hockey fans in Seattle than I think, is given credit sometimes by the mass media here. Listen, as you well know, the junior teams have been massively successful both on the ice and also at the gate. And, most of us grew up in Seattle watching Hockey Night in Canada. CBC's been on our cable systems for 50 plus years. So, there's a good hockey base here. The Thunderbirds and now the Silvertips and really the U.S. division as a whole. And that's kind of what the Kraken look at. They look at their regional team. So, Portland, Tri-Cities, Spokane, Seattle, Everett. There's a lot of hockey fans here. Those guys, those fans get it. But I think the newer fans are saying, hey, this is great. They've stockpiled all these draft picks, which is good, right? It's a good thing. But how many guys have you and I watched over the years that we thought were surefire guys, first-round picks, that never play in the NHL or never make an impact? And I'll be honest with you, I thought about that this year when I went on that first road trip and I saw Cody Glass playing. And I thought, man, watching him in juniors, he's going to be something else. He is not anything right now in the National Hockey League. So I think the bigger criticism, Rod, I would have, especially at the trade deadline, is they didn't pick up many prospects. They didn't go out and get any young guys. They have draft picks, but they didn't go out and get, maybe someone who was, a fourth-line guy or not being able to crack the lineup, was sitting in the press box, or, a 20-year-old, maybe a junior player that's on the up and come. They didn't do any of that. That all said, this is 1/3 of the way through the process of building through 2022, 2023. Free agency, the draft, trades on draft day. We'll see what Ron Francis does. There's plenty of time left, and there's plenty of road ahead for him to make an impact in the offseason. But, boy, so far, it just feels like they're really playing this thing out for a long period of time. And I don't know, in this market, I'm not sure if that's a great idea.
And by the way, I appreciate you bringing up way back with CBC being on your cable carrier, because Game Plus, which carries our show, is available in Seattle, all across the state of Washington on TDS Cable, where we air daily. But, there's a lot of junior hockey fans that watch this show in Western Canada, and we kicked this around for ages when the Kraken were announced. How will this affect the Thunderbirds and Silvertips? And I just thought the more hockey, the better. How has the addition of the NHL affected those franchises in the dub?
You know what? You're bang on. More hockey, the better. The Kraken especially have a great relationship with the Thunderbirds. And I think same with Spokane. They played their first ever preseason game in Spokane, the Spokane Arena. It's a great building. The NCAA uses that building for March Madness games, for tournament games. I would hope that they would do that again next year, play at least a game in Spokane. I know they looked at doing it in Portland as well, but in our market, I think it's helped quite a bit. The Thunderbirds, the whole pandemic thing puts, as you know, it puts a monkey wrench into everything. With all the restrictions, the junior teams across Canada have had a hard time, I know, getting fans back in the buildings. But now those restrictions are off, at least in the States. We're seeing crowds come back, at least to the Thunderbird games, the Silvertip games, Portland as well. And I think more hockey, you're right, is better. I'll give you an example. The game last week when Vegas played back-to-back games here. And, Shea Theodore scored what proved to be the game-winning goal on Wednesday. He scored the game-winning goal on Friday as well in overtime. And the crowd was going crazy because the former Thunderbirds scoring against the Kraken. It was really kind of fun. Keegan Colasar got in a scrap as well with Alexiak. So, you can really feel the vibe of the old Thunderbirds coming back. When Barzal was here this year with the Islanders, place went nuts. It was a hard ticket to get. So I think you're right, Rod. I think you're 100% right. More hockey, the better, especially as fans start to learn, hey, this is where all these players come from for the most part. A third of the league's coming from the Western Hockey League, so you get a chance to watch the up-and-coming stars. And Seattle has a really good draft class this year, the Thunderbirds, that is. So, maybe, just maybe, the Kraken will realize they can draft a guy from here because they seem to have a heavy influence in European teams in terms of scouting.
I'm glad to know the fans are paying attention, and they know, because here in Florida, they really didn't have any idea that Austin Matthews was going after the Leafs single-season goal record the other night when Toronto was here. I mean, it's good. The crowds are good because the Panthers are good, but I don't know if they'll ever get it to the degree that Seattle fans seem to. We only have a minute in, but Russell Wilson is gone. How's that going over? What do you see ahead for the Seahawks in the near term?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what it was like in Edmonton when Gretzky was traded to the to the Kings, but and certainly Russell's not Gretzky, but just things you never think you would see happen. A franchise quarterback being traded to the Denver Broncos, and it was one of the wildest days I've ever had in sports media and in my career. Shocking, even though we felt like it was a year away, Rod. We felt like next year he was going to force his way out because the contract demands were going to be so high. I think what happened is the Seahawks got a little bit ahead of it. They made that move. They bring Drew Lock in. They will draft a quarterback. Speaking of a lot of draft picks, they got a ton of picks in this year's draft. They'll draft a quarterback somewhere along the way and not really rebuild. That's not Pete Carroll's, vocabulary. They're just kind of rebuilding from the ground up with a foundation already there. DK Metcalf and Jordan Brooks and Tyler Lockett, Jamal Adams, guys like that, Quandre Diggs. They have a lot of really good pieces. They just have to now go find a quarterback. But it was an amazing day when a franchise player, not just a franchise player for one team, but for an entire city, community, and region, gets traded. It's crazy. It's something else.
I swear we could go on for hours, you and I. I will just say this about the Gretzky thing. A lot of pain. In a lot of ways, it's still there. Hey, Ian, we got to roll. Always good, buddy. Always good. Obviously, we're following very closely what you're doing. So keep it up and continued success. I'm
jealous. Enjoy the sunshine, Rod, anytime. See ya.
Thank you, man. Ian Furness from Sports Radio KJR Seattle. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the RP Show on YouTube. And don't forget, we're live daily on YouTube from noon to 2 Eastern. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. And if you like the program, check around for other segments of the Rod Pedersen Show here on YouTube.